Hey everybody, Aaron here once again. Second time charm in a row with an intro added to the start of a match. This one will be much briefer because there's not really a error that needs to be explained on my behalf. This is more so just a timeline thing. Uh, it's not often that we have the same competitor compete two times in a row. And yes, obviously Jake was in the match on Monday, and now he is in this match tonight versus Dawn. Just to clarify, because definitely it'll get confusing with the way that we talk during the matches. Everybody knows that matches are pre-recorded, and these matches were originally intended to be a couple of weeks apart. But then, of course, everybody knows that we had a bit of a stall up in the summer at the end there because of my vacation and some personal issues that arose that made it a little difficult to get matches up for a couple weeks there. And so I realized when when I built the schedule, I just realized that I had these two matches right next to each other. It was just sheer accident. Literally, I can tell you right now, I'm recording this 2 days before the video goes up. It is the Monday, and I realized like, oh shit, this match is about to go up, and it's the same match that I just recorded an intro for. So I just thought I would record a second intro and say, no, Jake did not play two matches immediately back to back. I'm not that type of guy. And there will be some confusion over the way that we're speaking in the match because these were recorded a few weeks apart from each other. Just, hey man, I'm human. Shit happens. Enjoy the match.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the movie Battleground here on TMG Entertainment. I am your special guest host this evening. As always, not Aaron Canole, but am Austin Pez Howell. Want to welcome you to what should be another lovely edition of the Battleground and what should be a lively debate between two competitors who potentially tonight could be fighting for a wild card slot in the end of the year tournament. With a win, each of these guys are very close to being at a 50-50 record right now, and the definitive win here tonight could be what either of them needs to get into that end of the year tournament as we approach it and quickly approach it, I should say. So it should be a lively debate. One guy who's been in the Battleground significantly longer than the other and who has seen significant improvement, and a fairly new competitor who's looking to make a big splash here to round out his 2023 season. But I won't waste too much time here. I'll bring in our first competitor to talk to. Introducing first tonight with a record of 1 win and 2 defeats, Don Tucker. Don, how's it going, sir? How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like I said, fairly new to the Battleground still, with a record of 1-2 here. I believe I might have even witnessed or been part of one of your first matches, something like that. But yeah, you're a guy. You went 1-1. Unfortunately, recently ran into a brick wall known as Josh Diggins, another new competitor here. I know he's a very strong competitor, newcomer here, looking to make a big impact. But how are you feeling going into this one, man? You got a chance here tonight if you can get a win against Jake to make it into the end of your tournament. Is that your goal tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, it's nice to just have a chance. That's what he said. I gotta get a win here, hopefully, and I kind of took a little bit of a different approach in how I prepared for it. So I'm hoping it pays off in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're looking at a guy, Jake Tato, who's been around the Battleground for quite some time. He's a veteran player who has improved his game. I was going to ask you if you kind of adjusted anything, going into this one, given how kind of big the stakes are going to the end of the year.
Sure. I mean, I think there's always, ways to improve and ways to do things differently. And, I watched my matches back and a few other matches and just kind of, tweak things the way I thought I should to, sort of make up for my weaknesses in other matches. So.
Hey, no, sounds good. Well, good luck to you tonight, sir. I'm going to back you out and talk to your competitor, and we'll get this thing rolling. All right, sir?
Sounds
So let's say goodbye to Don for just a second now, and introducing his opponent now with a record of 3 wins, 4 defeats, but with 2 knockouts. A veteran of this league. You all know him. You all love him. Jake Tato Riese. Mr. Tato, we're very familiar with each other. I might have even been here for your first Battleground of the new kind of iteration of it. I judged, I think, your match with Joe Farrelly, where you were very nervous, you were very rocky. You got a point on him. I remember that for a movie that might come up again tonight, based on my notes here. But yeah, how you feeling tonight, man? You drastically improved your game. I've seen that firsthand. How you feeling going into this one, man?
Yeah, I'm definitely a sober Tato, world's different player than drunk Tato. We'll say that. We'll get that out in the air. Yep. Haven't lost since. I've been doing really good this year. Hope to keep that one going. Don's a good competitor. I've watched his matches, so I think we match up really well. I'm definitely curious to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I was going to mention that you're actually on a 3-game win streak. So all those 3 wins are all recently. So you've got the momentum going into this one, and you certainly have enough momentum to potentially enter that end of the year tournament and get one of those final slots in there. Should you get a win and get back to 500? Is that definitely your goal here tonight and what you're kind of fighting for?
Yeah, my main for the end of the year was to get to 500, dig myself out of that 0-4 hole that I put myself in. So to be on the precipice of that is pretty big.
No, that's awesome, man. So good luck to you, man. I won't waste too much of your time. We'll let you get into this thing, but good luck to you in trying to get to 500. Both guys trying to get to 500 tonight, and we will see what happens. But I'll back you up for just a second as I go to our videos and give you a little info on the Battleground if this happens to be one of your first times watching. It's a first to 3 points here in the Battleground. Each round will be worth a point. If you're able to get that elusive 3 points in a row, you'll win by knockout. If both competitors are tied at the end of this one, 2-2, we will go to a round 5 blind round to determine a winner. But how it works is we will have a 60-second opening argument for each competitor, 2-minute solo pitches to follow that. My favorite part of the debate, the big 4-minute wide open discussion, and then 60 seconds for each of the gentlemen to close it out. And that's kind of how it works here tonight on the Battleground. It's always good times, good movie discussions, and we won't waste too much time in here. Let's bring back in our competitors here on screen together. Good luck to both of you gentlemen as we get things going here. But I'll go ahead and start introducing your first questions here, and we'll get this debate going. We've got an interesting, unique question here. I believe the movie from Gran Turismo is coming out. You got Neil Blomkamp making his return to the big screen with Gran Turismo, something I was unaware of till a few months ago when I started digging into that movie. So it's not only a new video game movie, but sort of a racing movie. So we asked each of these competitors for this one a fun question: what's the best car racing movie? And so we'll let these guys, they've each got some interesting choices here. So we'll get this going. I'm going to bring up your timer. I'm going to remove myself from this thing right here. Let's bring in that timer. It'll be up in the corner for you gentlemen, so you can keep an eye on it at all times. And I will give you some audio cues when it is right at the end. But Jake, you will be going first on questions 1 and 3. So you will be going first here in just a second. But we will go ahead and get it going. Let us know your answer. You got your first 60 seconds whenever you're ready.
I'm Ricky Bobby, and if you don't chew Big Red, then fuck you. The best car racing film of all time is Talladega Nights: The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. This movie has stood the test of time and remained in the cultural zeitgeist since its release in 2006. Not a week has gone by in my life where I haven't encountered some quote or reference to this film. You, of course, have the obvious ones, like if you're not first, you're last. And don't you put that evil on me. You'll run into those quotes out into the real world sometimes, completely outside of our movie community. Then you have the more deep ones. I just wanted to let you know that if you could hear me, if I got in your brain somehow, that I spread my butt cheeks in Playground Magazine as my concho. Or the whole baby Jesus scene, from the fast food product placement to the prayer to 8 pound, 6 ounce baby infant Jesus, to Cal talking about party Jesus, to the Powerade legal sponsorship, to the kids and the interaction with their grandpa. The whole 6 minutes there is gold.
All right, and that's time. Jake Tato going with Talladega Nights, the Battle of Ricky Bobby. Going over to Don Tucker to introduce your movie, sir, whenever you're ready.
All right, so I went with a movie that I thought really shows racing and really shows actually a really great story in racing history. And with the cast and the screen or the the directing and everything in this movie, I just feel like it's the best racing movie, which is Ford v Ferrari. I mean, who really can argue with Christian Bale and Damon and Bernthal and just all these great actors coming together and telling this story and just putting together a really, really, really great movie. And that's why I think it's the best car racing film. I'll yield my time.
Okay, sounds good. No worries. All right, Don Tucker's going to yield those last couple of seconds. I'll just let it run down here as he goes with James Mangold's 4 v Ferrari. We'll go back over to Mr. Tato for your 2-minute expansion whenever you're ready.
All righty. Every actor in Talladega Nights 100% understands the assignment. Will Ferrell is at the top of his game of that parody. Another wonderful pairing between him and John C. Reilly. Gary Cole does his best work outside of Bill Lumbergh as Ricky's dad's Riese. Jane Lynch, who never misses, it does not miss as Ricky's mom. Sacha Baron Cohen is perfect as the villain Jean Girard, and of course, rest in peace, Michael Clark Duncan. The kids and the grandpa I already mentioned are hilarious. Leslie Bibb, Molly Shannon, Amy Adams, Jack McBrayer, Andy Richter, Rob Riggle all have fantastic bits in this movie. I'd also like to point out that considering the budgets and the type of movie being made, the actual car racing scenes side by side aren't very different. You'd think that Ford versus Ferrari would have vastly better shots than Talladega Nights, but it does not. They're basically the same. So Ford versus Ferrari doesn't even succeed where it very obviously should in this matchup. Ford versus Ferrari is fine, but it's already not talked about 4 years later in the community. I've literally never heard anyone about it either. I don't know if you have anything from it. I didn't hear anything really particular about it other than 3 actors you named. The only bits I really remember from the film are Christian Bale raging out, and that's only because Christian Bale raging out is a joke outside of the film. Christian Bale and Matt Damon are good in the movie, but everyone else in the movie is just fine. There are also a bevy of inaccuracies in the film, which of course is going to happen in movies, but when you're the Oscar bait biopic, you should have less inaccuracies than the silly Will Ferrell movie. It's much more forgivable for the comedy to not be 100% accurate to the sport. Ultimately, Ford versus Ferrari is not even better at the car racing aspect than Talladega Nights, which it very much should be, let alone being the better movie, period.
All right, and that's going to wrap up Mr. Tato's expansion. Going back to Mr. Tucker for your 2 minutes whenever you're ready.
So I definitely wouldn't be able to agree with the fact that the racing scenes aren't superior to Talladega Nights. I mean, the Daytona scene is amazing in Ford v Ferrari. The scene where he takes Ford's son out on to show him how the car runs on the track and how he's crying at the end, and he's like basically blackmails him in that moment. The Le Mans races at the end are some really great scenes. We get in the rain. We get a lot of great cinematography shots from like behind the cars and from the side and stuff like that. So yeah, Talladega Nights has some fun racing scenes where they're crashing and the flip down the side and they cut to the commercial and they come back and still flipping. it's funny, and I love Talladega Nights, but as far as a car racing movie, I don't think it really fits that. It's more about the story of Ricky Bobby and just how he, loses his mind kind of and has to get it back and come back and fight back from that. Where Ford v Ferrari really tells of course it's not an accurate story. No biopic is accurate. I mean, there's always going to be inconsistencies in it, but it does tell that story, which is a big story in racing history where Ford wanted to really break into this, winning in this specific race, and the only way they could do it is by bringing in these two, Shelby and Miles, Ken Miles, to do it. And the stuff they had to go through with Leo always trying to get in their way and sabotage them throughout the whole thing, and ultimately does sabotage them in the end. I feel like it's a better car racing movie because it tells a car racing story. The entire story is about car racing.
All right, and time for the 2 minutes. Let's move on to both of these guys. It'll be a 4-minute open expansion, discussion, and debate. Please give your opponent a chance to speak. Please make it as even as you possibly can. But other than that, let's get it going, and I'll start that 4 minutes when the first person starts speaking.
So I was actually fully prepared to eat shit on the racing scenes being better, but when I looked at them side by side, they're not. There's the same interior car shots, the same pit shots, the same flag shots, the same pulling into the side or the front of the car. And with the whole with the inaccuracies thing, it's fine to dramatize the human interest parts to make a better movie, like how Enzo Ferrari wasn't actually at the Le Mans race. That's fine. But why are we inventing races that didn't actually happen? Stuff like that is excessive, unnecessary, and always loses points for me in the realm of.
I understand that. I don't feel like the inaccuracies in the movie are enough to bring down the movie, because it's still telling that story. It's still telling a racing story. It's about the racing. It's about building that car for one specific purpose, to win this race, and how they're being screwed over the entire time by Leo, who's just trying to screw them out of winning it, and ultimately does in the end. Because they don't get the win, even though he was way ahead by the end of the race. And it's a great story in the end. And some of the, acting in these scenes with Bale and Damon and Bernthal and Damon are just amazing. I mean, the acting in this movie is top notch all around, all the way through. So, and back to the racing scenes. Yeah, that is the one I really don't understand, because Talladega Nights really just has a lot of top-down racing as far as shots, and then a lot of in the pit, where this is like there's panning shots and wraparound shots, and
But I listed to you that Talladega Nights has all the same shots,
but not all the zooms and pans and stuff like that.
They very much have a lot of them.
Okay, I don't know. It just feels
maybe not every exact shot for shot, but
that movie. I guess because the movie is just more,
because of the nature of the film, it feels more intense. You can say that the acting is better in Ford versus Ferrari, but what is the goal of the actors in each film? The goal of the actors in Talladega Nights is to make us laugh, and they succeed at every turn. You really only have, like you said,
actually about racing. That's what I like. Where is the racing in the actual?
The racing is there from the get-go. The man was born in the back of a fast-moving car. It's everything about his life is racing. If you're not first, you're last is his life's motto. His whole career is as racing.
But the whole movie is about all of him and him coming back out of that. I like that's more of the core of the story. Him in the hospital, the telekinesis scene, and
but I could also say that the core of the story is more the building of the car and the friendship between Ken Miles and Carroll Shelby. Like, again, if you compare if you're just looking to compare the racing parts, there's about as much racing in Talladega Nights as there is in Ford v Ferrari, minute per minute, and it's shot equally as well, even though it shouldn't be.
I would just say, that goes to my point of that the story still serves the racing. The story is about the racing, where it's not, he's just trying to get mentally back in to be able to racing. It's not really about the racing in that sense, where they're trying to build a car for a specific race that they're trying to win together. So it's more of that towards the goal.
Mental health is as important as physical health, or as important as building a car.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think the story is more focused around the racing in Ford v Ferrari than it is at Talladega Nights. It's more focused around him just trying to rebuild his life, which is, the comeback story, which is a great story. I'm not saying it's a bad story.
Yeah, I didn't look at them minute by minute, but I think there is equal amounts of racing in both films.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I can't agree there. I just can't agree there.
All right, time on the twofer. Let's go back to Jake Tato to wrap things up with your final 60 seconds.
Alrighty. Once again, you have to be prompted to discuss Ford versus Ferrari. It's not really in the discussion otherwise. Talladega Nights is the most beloved and remembered car racing film by both the general populace outside of our community and within our movie space as well. Ford v Ferrari is at best a flash in the pan. As I previously mentioned, it's good, but not really memorable in any way. I don't hear much of the memorable scenes from my opponent here. No one talks about it now. Certainly no one will be talking about it in 10 years down the line, the way they talk about Ricky Bobby now. The movies are equal in the car racing aspects, both the literal camera shots and the accuracies to the sport. So with all that considered, I think the better movie is the comedy that is nonstop laughter and has been for 17 years, as opposed to the Oscar bait drama that no one even discusses 4 years later. The best car racing film is Talladega Nights, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby.
All right, time on there. Tucker, your final 60 seconds to wrap it up.
Again, we're talking about the best movie, the best car racing movie. And when it comes down to the story, when it comes down to the layout of the screenplay, the way everything plays out, everything serves the car racing in this story, in my opinion. And the acting is obviously top notch. And I just feel like when you want to talk about the best car racing movie, everything should be about the car racing in the end. And I feel like that's where this movie really shines. And I think that's where this movie is really just hits its strengths. And I feel like at the end of the day, with everything we see in this movie and just a real deep dive into this story that is a great, important, moment in car racing in general, telling this story, I think, was the right thing to do. And I think they did it right. And I feel like it's the best car racing story for that reason.
All right. That is going to do it for this one, guys. We were wrapping things up with that one. A good debate all around, certainly so. Yeah, good stuff there. Both these guys next to me piss excellence. I mean, we can all agree to that. And
I love Talladega Nights, man. I love it.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely. But guys, a good debate there. I'm going to drop you back and bring in our judges and see who took that one. So we'll see you guys in just a second. We're going to bring in Chris, Brian, and Alan, my judges for this evening. Yeah, a good debate all around there, guys. I don't really do all the big fact checking that Aaron does. I just kind of, make a pithy comment here or there and get right to you guys and see what you think about this one. So Chris, we'll go to you first. Just give me your vote and who won it for you.
Yeah, this was a good debate. I don't entirely agree with Jake on which is very not that memorable, but I really went with Jake Tato at the end. I think he just pointed out the humor, the comedy, everything with the racing. I just think that Don focused a little bit too much trying to defend his movie, and Tato did pull out some good pull about the inaccuracy, the racing thing looking the same. Don't entirely agree. So Tato got my vote in.
Okay, Jake Tato getting the first one. Brian, where'd you go with this one?
I also would tail this one based on the argument where the story was the memorability, the way different characters served their role. He would talk about how well it fits with our film community as well. I didn't hear that much from Don as well, but Jake Tato got my point.
All right, well, that's the 2 points we need. Alan, we'll get back to you on the next round. I promise you. We'll see you in just a few minutes. Oh man, he would have gone the other way, maybe. But there you go. So I'll back you guys
Lay
out.
in the
And we'll see you
comments.
guys again in a few minutes. Yeah, you never know where these things can go. But let's bring those guys out, and I'll bring our competitors back in. So Tato's going to take a early lead here,
Very good round.
1-0.
Good knock, bro. Good knock.
But yeah, no, good stuff all around. Let's move on to another one. We're going to stay in the realm of sports, though, for question number 2. Just a couple of different types of sports. We always got a sports film kind of around the corner, but we asked these guys. I think they're both sports fans. I think that's a easy thing to say. So we're going to discuss some sports stuff, and this is going to be more of a hypothetical, kind of a pitch type question. We asked both these guys, what sports film from the 2010s should get a sequel? So this one should be interesting. There's plenty to choose from. Once again, I will back myself out of here, and we will find out what these guys had to say about this topic. So let me reset our little timer here. And this time, Mr. Tucker, you will be up first. So go ahead with your opening 60 seconds to tell us what movie you chose whenever you're ready.
So when I was thinking about this, I went with a movie that I really love watching over and over again, and I really think it's a movie that you could do a sequel with because I think there's a lot you could really do with it. I went with Draft Day. This is a movie that is just so much fun to watch because of the way that Sonny has to, sort of maneuver through this day of going into the NFL draft and how he's basically on the brink of losing his job at one point and coming back and by the end of the movie, and I really think that this is a movie that could do with a sequel, and I'll go into more of that in the next round. So I'll yield my time.
Okay, sounds good. I'll make a quick confession as these 10 seconds are running down. I've watched Draft Day 3 times in the last 6 months. I love that movie.
Love it. It's so fun.
That movie is very,
Kevin Costner not the greatest sports actor of all time.
There's a lot of good.
Tin Cup, Field of Dreams. I mean, the list just goes on and on. I mean, it's insane. Yeah.
Dances with Wolves. Wait. Dancing's a sport.
Yeah, right.
It's sport. All right.
All right. Tato, over to you for your 60 to introduce your movie, sir.
The sports film from the 2010s that should get a sequel is 2011's Real Steel. I'll just get the giant robot elephant in the room out of the way and point out that this, spoiler alert, this movie is basically a Robot Rocky. Anyone who knows me knows my predilection towards that franchise. I love it. It's top 3, and good fucking luck if you're facing me in a Rocky trivia match. So what we have is an amazing story about a down-on-his-luck fighter who gets a shot to face a champ, and the best part is, in the end, he doesn't succeed, but he goes the distance. So that said, of course I want Robot Rocky 2. And as recently as 2022, Hugh Jackman and Sean Levy have both said they want it as well. But they don't want to do it just to do it. They want it to be great, which I think is wonderful. The time thing is a total non-issue because Hugh Jackman first picked up the claws in 2000. We're all super excited to see him wear them again a quarter century later in Deadpool 3. Anthony Mackie and Evangeline Lilly are still kicking ass in the MCU as well. Give me Real Steel 2. Give me Robot Rocky 2.
All right. Tato going with Real Steel. Mr. Tucker, we'll go back to you for your 2-minute expansion whenever you're ready.
So, yeah, again, after, seeing Draft Day again and just seeing what they could do with this movie as far as a sequel goes, I think there's just a lot you could do. You could go into the future, 3-4 years. Maybe they need a new quarterback now at this point. There's another, crazy draft situation that happens where the thing that falls short with me for Real Steel is that I think you just said it. It's Rocky, but with robots. It's cliche. It's already been done so many times, and every time we get a sequel to one of these movies, it's even a worse cliche of the cliches, and I really don't want to see that, where I really feel like Real Steel gives us sort of that twist, that M. Night Shyamalan, that sort of, psychological thriller twist and with a sports movie backdrop. Because throughout the whole day, he has to sort of maneuver through this minefield of whether he's going to lose his job or not because he gives away the first 3 draft picks for the next 3 years And the way he eventually kind of brings everything back and gets everything he wants in the end is just so well done. And I think, again, there's so many ways you can play on that for a sequel, and it hasn't been done before. I mean, like I said, I don't think this sort of twisty type psychological, not really psychological, but just sort of playing with twist in a movie hasn't really been done in a sports movie before. I think it's really well done in this movie. And again, Kevin Costner, bring him back, and Dennis Leary is great as the coach. And there's just so many things you could do. Where Real Steel, the story was told. It was him. He had to get back in good favor with his kid, and he does. And it's a great heartwarming story. But as far as a sequel goes, I just don't see where it can't not be bad.
All right. Going back over to Tato for your 2-minute expansion whenever you're ready.
Alrighty, just to continue where I left off with the casting aspect, we're going to recast the kid. Obviously, we have to. I'm doing literally just the direct sequel here. But the kid's acting was far from the best part of the original movie anyway, and it's fitting since Rocky's kid has also been recast multiple times. If the original villains are still around, cool. If not, they're recastable / replaceable as well. But the only thing I need is we need the rematch between Adam and Zeus. I have to see Adam get that win back. Beyond that, we're going to get to see the growth in the father-son relationship between Charlie and Max. We get to see the growth in the next step in the romantic relationship with Charlie and Evangeline Lilly's character, Bailey, and go into more backstory between her and her dad. There's so many more stories to tell in this universe, and that's just the human interest part. I haven't even gotten to the fact that we're going to get a bunch of new kick-ass robots with a bunch of new kick-ass CGI. So that's going to be sweet. There's zero demand for a Draft Day sequel. If you Google the words Draft Day anytime around an actual pro draft, you'll find the results for that before you'll find the movie. However, if you Google Real Steel, by the time you type the S and the T, you will see Real Steel 2, Real Steel 2 release date, Real Steel 2 trailer. People want this movie. Those are all things that literally popped up on my first time Googling the words. No audience for another Draft Day right now. Football fans want access to real, authentic, behind-the-scenes NFL action, like Peyton Manning's new show, Quarterback, that actually takes a deep, in-depth look into those three quarterbacks' lives. Draft Day, future 3 to 4 years. I'm really curious how you're going to deal with the Chadwick Boseman of it all. That's a pool I don't want to step into. I don't think we should be doing anything to do with Draft Day because of that. So I'm curious to see how you're going to handle that.
Okay. And that's going to be time for that. Going into our 4-minute open debate, I will begin that timer whenever the first person starts speaking.
So more robots, bigger robots. So you want Michael Bay's version of Rocky when we already have Rocky?
Well, the Creed 3 trilogy, the Creed trilogy is fantastic, and one could simplify.
Go ahead, sorry.
Rehashes of Rocky. So why not get the sequel with fucking robots?
I don't think the Chadwick Boseman thing is a big deal either, because if it's 3 or 4 years in the future, even 5 years in the future, maybe he's traded by then, maybe he's on a team, maybe you just don't see him in the movie. So that's not a big deal. I mean, I know what you mean, but that's an easy get around. See, that just feels like that feels gross to me. I don't like that. No, because the story is going to be focused around him and him being able to pull the team back out of a slump where, like I said, either the quarterback gets hurt or maybe something like that where they need a quarterback, or it's just his time.
So just to be clear, what are you proposing another Draft Day? Because Draft Day is in the title. It doesn't really need a sequel. It's a perfect little encapsulated one-day story.
Sure, but it is a premise in a way you can play around with, like I said, that sort of mind twisty type stuff with the draft and have another version of this where
that's just a rehash of the same movie, though.
You just now they're fighting. I mean, we've already told the story of how he was a down out of his luck fighter or former fighter that rose back up to the top, and no, he didn't win, but he at least went the distance. And I just
we told that story with Rocky, and it was awesome, and then we made Rocky 2, and it was awesome.
But again, you're going to tell a cliche story about it with Michael Bay with Michael Bay sprinkled into it. With
what is going to be different? Well, what are you doing differently? Okay, so are you doing? Are you, just to be clear, are you pitching Draft Day 2018 for that Cleveland Browns team?
Maybe 2018. No, I'm pitching just.
Well, you said 3 or 4 years later. It takes place in 2014.
Oh, okay, well, yeah. So then, whatever. So then move it to now. So 10 years later, then there we go. So now.
Okay, so let's
again. Now he has to rebuild, and we figure out how he has to do it through the draft, where he gets 2 or 3 players.
Okay, well, you can't bring those characters back because it's extremely unrealistic to expect an NFL office to stay together for that long, so that doesn't work.
Why not? Why not? There's people that have been around.
Well, not if they're a team that's repeatedly in contention for the number 1 draft pick. They're not.
I mean, that may be true, but still, I mean, well, then maybe it's with another team. I mean, again, there's ways to tell the story where, again, real.
But if it's with another team, it's just a straight to DVD rehash.
And yours is just a rehash of Rocky 2, but with robots.
It's a sequel to an awesome movie.
And this is an awesome movie. It would be a sequel to an already awesome movie.
I don't know what you're doing. Like I've got a clear plan.
Where you haven't said one thing about where Real Steel 2 goes. Where does this movie go?
It's Rocky 2. It's Rocky. Apollo gets, or Zeus. Yeah, it's Rocky and Apollo's rematch. It's Zeus and Adam's rematch. So and again, you get to see more growth. Like I listed all the growth with the character relationships, growth between Max and Charlie, growth between Hugh and Lily, Evangeline Lily's characters, and the human interest. You can go more into Evangeline Lily's backstory. Her father owned the gym. I would like to know more about that. I want to know more both about the human interest story in Real Steel, and I want to see more kick-ass robots.
I don't think that's enough to hold up a whole nother movie. Again, you have to tell a story, and a story that people are going to be interested in and keep people guessing. You're just, again, telling Rocky 2 in a very, very cliche way. I don't see their
time. All right, let's go back to Don Tucker to wrap up with your final 60 seconds there.
So again, I just feel like with where you could go with this story, telling this story with this backdrop of the sports element and being able to sort of play around with what's going to happen. Is he going to pull it off? I think that's something that you can do in a sequel with this movie, where again, Real Steel 2 is Rocky 2 but with robots. I mean, I don't see that as a great pitch for a sequel to a movie. They always mess it up. They always get it wrong, and they will definitely get this wrong because they will try to go bigger. They will try to spend more money. They will try to get some other big name in there to play the bad guy and be the Drago or the Apollo Creed and whatever. And I don't think that's the way to go. Where again, with this premise of a movie and Draft Day, you can tell a lot of stories and that and get a sequel.
All right. And time for Mr. Tucker. Jake Tato, your final 60 seconds whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'm glad you threw in money there because Draft Day only made $29 million on its $25 million budget. Real Steel cost $110 million and made $300 million. So I think it's important to consider all parties when you're pitching a sequel. Studios can't be making $4 million on movies. Like I said, Rocky 2 is awesome. That's all I need to pitch. But there's no need for a Draft Day sequel. Like I said, the NFL is not going to be in the same place in 2023 as it is in the 2014. You can't recast Chadwick. It's weird. There's just nothing to this movie. I don't quite know what you pitch. You pitched the 3-4 later thing. I deflected that. You pitched the 10 years later thing. I deflected that. I just don't think there's any logical or necessary. Make money will be awesome. I cannot wait to see it. Hopefully it does come out actually.
All right, and that's going to do it for that debate. Another good job all around, gentlemen. Yeah, two movies. I don't think I'd mind seeing one to either one of them, but that's just me. Two movies that I think are pretty rewatchable and pretty good. But it doesn't matter what I think. We're gonna go to our judges to find out what they think. So I'll see you guys in just a second, and I'm gonna bring in our judges once again. This time it'll be Brian, then Alan, then Chris Diaz going this time. Draft Day is really watchable. I watched it on a plane and then watched it again with my roommate who wanted his neighbor to come over and watch it. And then Real Steel not too long ago either, and that movie works pretty well as well. So yeah, two movies that are hypotheticals, but let's see what you guys thought of their pitches here. Brian, we'll go to you first. Who got it for you and why?
For me, Taylor got for me for this round. He was able to knock down Dawn a bunch of times, talk about how it worked out, the whole NFL office, the whole Chadwick situation knocked down. He proves the points of why I deserve a sequel. So Taylor is my point.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to Dr. Spaceman. What you got for this one, sir? Let's hear from you. What do you got?
Woo, both made good, compelling arguments, honestly, and they defended it pretty well. And it was more of a challenge for them to, knock each other's, attacks against the film or the reason why it should be made. I thought they did very, very well, and just by a little bit, I went with Jake. They call him Tato.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, Tato is going to grab that one to go up to the now. Excuse me. But yeah, good job, all you guys. Appreciate you listening. Thank you so much. Chris, we'll get to you on the next one. I'll drop you guys out here and bring you guys back in. A good one there. But Tato's gonna take that one 2-0. So kind of a game point here for Tato if he can wrap it up. But Don Tucker, you still got a chance to come back here. I've seen it happen many, many times, including one I guest hosted fairly recently where the competitor came back from a 2-0. So don't give up yet. Anything can happen here in the Battleground as we will move on. There's been a lot of discussion this year about fantasy films. And we saw kind of a surprisingly good one. I haven't seen it yet, but I from what I hear, the Dungeons and Dragons movie was surprisingly good and a little bit better than people thought it was going to be in that kind of fantasy realm. But we wanted to ask kind of the opposite and have a little fun. So we asked both these competitors, what do you think is the worst fantasy film as opposed to one of the best ones? So let's tear down some garbage here and have a little fun and see what both of these guys chose for this one. So I will take myself out of here. Let me reset our timer, ready to go. Mr. Tato, you will be up first for this one, sir. So I will start with your 60 seconds to introduce your movie whenever you're ready.
The worst fantasy film of all time, since it technically falls under this category, is the worst film of all time, period. Dragon Ball Evolution. I'm a firm believer in second chances, but in this circumstance, no. I watched Dragon Ball Evolution once in theaters and vowed never again to inflict that evil upon my soul. It completely sullied one of my all-time favorite pieces of media. The characters were visually and personality-wise not even a shadow of who they really are. They completely destroyed the story. Piccolo having Uzaru or Ozaru, as they pronounce it in this pile of shit, as a servant makes no fucking sense. Goku being in high school is about the stupidest shit I ever heard since Greedo shooting first. Goku and Chi-Chi's love story, which is super endearing and unique in the manga/anime, is boring as hell and generic in the worst way. They ruined Goku's arc by having Piccolo kill his grandpa, and then he doesn't even really give a shit about it. I fucking hate this movie.
Well, tell us how you really feel, Mr. Tato, about Dragon Ball Evolution. All right, well, let's see if Mr. Tucker has the same passion for his pick. Your 60 seconds whenever you're ready.
I can't match that passion, no. So I went with a movie that just, I believe is the same amount of unwatchable, the same amount of just pull your hair out. This is not what I signed up for. How did this get past a writing room, let alone greenlit and made? And it's the Super Mario Brothers movie from 2004 or whatever. I don't remember now, but man, this movie is horrible. From Dennis Hopper as I don't know King Koopa, I guess, whatever, to the just bad acting all the way around in this movie, which is very hard to do in a movie that has just I don't know what it is, pieces of skin hanging everywhere, which eventually turns out to be the original king, and weirdness is happening in this movie that I just cannot defend, and yeah, I will not defend it.
All right. Well, a quick little fact check. I just know, being the release guy off the top of my head, I believe he's talking about 1993 Super Mario Brothers.
93. I was like, okay, yeah,
just a tad off
way
on that
before
one.
that. Yeah.
Just wanted to point that out. Just for clarity's sake, we're not talking about the most recent one. We're talking about 1993's Super Mario Brothers. But back over to you, Mr. Tato, for your 2 minutes.
Both of these franchises mean a ton to me. I've had these custom lighters for like a decade now. I got them as a birthday gift in the early 2010s. Check them out. What's Mario doing with that bullet bill? Mind your business. Who cares? Any which way. Of these two movies, the one that is more offensive to the source material is hands down Dragon Ball Evolution, as I pointed out. Even outside of that butchering, it's a completely irredeemable crap fest. There is at least a degree of joy to be derived from Mario. Sure, the absolute acid fest that is Mario is weird, but at least it sort of makes sense for a dude that gets bigger after eating mushrooms. And at least it's fun to look at, as opposed to the washed out piss yellow that makes up the majority of Dragon Ball for no reason. There's a real tactility to the Mario set, and the practical effects work. I also think that if Mario were a comic book character, that this movie would be remembered a lot better, along the lines of those 90s pulp comic flicks like The Phantom, Dick Tracy, and The Shadow, stuff like that. The talent and the looks in Mario are dramatically better than in Dragon Ball Evolution. They at least stuck a short fat guy in a red suit next to a taller guy in a green suit. And say what you will about Dennis Hopper, he gives a fucking performance and a half in that movie. And even Bob Hoskins mailing it in is about 1,000,000 times better than the absolute mockery that is Justin Chatwin wearing these colors and this symbol. Furthermore, Mario didn't ruin video game movies forever. We got a pretty solid rebound in 95's Mortal Kombat, and video game movies these days are starting to get really good. Dragon Ball Evolution did ruin live action anime adaptations to the point where we still haven't even gotten close to a good one, and I don't know that we ever will. It's bad. Dragon Ball Evolution, really, really bad. Mario, worth watching, can have fun with the boys watching it. There are merits to Mario.
All right. Don Tugger, over to you for your 2 minutes.
There is nothing redeemable in Mario. As much as there is nothing redeemable in Dragon Ball, I will somewhat agree with you on that. There is nothing redeemable in Mario. I mean, there's nothing that even resembles what Mario is in this movie. I mean, the only power they get is through these stupid boots that help them jump. They don't get the power to get bigger. They don't get fire. Well, they do actually, again, through a gimmick. So it's the movie is so laughably bad, and the visuals, no, they do not hold up over time at all. This is completely a fail in every way, shape, and form. And as you said, Bob Hoskins mailing it in is way too obvious. Dennis Hopper is way too over the top to say that that's a decent performance or a fun performance to watch. It's not. It's the wrong movie for him. It's the wrong part for him. It's the wrong everything. And Leguizamo, I love John Leguizamo, but yeah, this is another movie where don't do this to yourself, and he did it, and it's very bad. And again, the aesthetic throughout the movie is not great. This whole futuristic, weird, where I mean, obviously, when you watch the game is set in a sort of fantasy world with castles and things, and they go into this weird aesthetic of like Blade Runner, and it's just it's a compilation of bad jokes, bad like 90s just cliches, trying to throw it into a movie and make it fit the Mario storyline and the Mario world so bad that it fails at every turn. And as bad as Dragon Ball Evolution is, there is a few things that do hold up a little bit over time. So
all right. That's going to be it for that. Going to you guys for the 4-minute open discussion, and I'll start that discussion when the first person starts speaking.
Yeah, I don't know what you can honestly say that is redeemable in Super Mario. I mean, at least Cell at the end of Evolution is
Cell isn't an evolution.
sorry, the Piccolo that's on the bed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, Piccolo is bad.
I mean that effects does hold up.
No, it doesn't. It's terrible. It looks like it belongs in the 80s. It's bad green paint. It's a poor, nothing like the character that I love, the Piccolo that I know and love. It's not even a close imitation to him. It's disgusting and horrible. You said the Mario has bad jokes and the bad 90s that you can at least watch and have fun with you can sit and have
as a kid, and I hated this movie when it came out. I mean, I really did, and I was 11. I should have loved this movie. I hated this movie when it came out. I was so disappointed as a kid, waiting for this Super Mario Brothers movie to come out, and that's what we got was nothing Super Mario, except for the fact that there was Mario and Luigi. That was the only thing Mario about the entire movie. And even Princess Peach isn't Princess Peach. Like, there's nothing in the movie that is.
Well, there's
Mario.
Princess Peach isn't Peach because she's Daisy. Daisy is a different character in the Mario canon.
I understand that, but this is if you're telling the Mario story. Come on, let's get back to the basics. Do not give me Super Mario Blade Runner when everything I know about Super Mario is castles and
like I said, at least those visuals are interesting to look at.
But I don't want to look at Dennis Hopper when I want King Koopa.
Yeah, no, I'll agree that Jack Black's take was better, but Dennis Hopper is at least giving something to that movie. Dennis Hopper gives more to that movie in every scene he's in than the combined acting of Dragon Ball Evolution, period. There's nothing good in the acting.
The Goombas with the little tiny heads, they all look like they're from that scene in Beetlejuice. That dude with the
yeah, it's like I said, it's a weird acid trip for sure, but it's fun.
Oh man,
there's fun to be
weird S&M or whatever club scene that's just weird and out there. It's I mean,
yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you, but that thinking of.
There is nothing redeemable in this movie, and the king is the weird snot.
I'm having a good time remembering those scenes in Mario. Fucking, you saw the rage that fucking Dragon Ball having to talk about Dragon Ball Evolution even brings in me. I don't want to talk about this movie, but it's the answer. It's the correct answer to this question, so I have to.
I've seen again like you. I've seen this movie once, and I just feel like it's obviously a bad Dragon Ball movie, but it's still at least it's watchable in a way where Mario Brothers I just don't think is, in the way where it at least touches on the story of Dragon Ball. Super Mario the movie doesn't touch anything about Mario, literally except for the two lead characters. That's the only thing Mario about the movie. Where at least Dragon Ball, yeah, it's a fail. It's a huge fail. It falls on its face every chance it gets. But it's at least trying to tell that story in its own way, whether it's good or not.
I would disagree. I think they're equally they're equally poor at it.
The Dragon Balls are there. The Dragon's there. Everything Dragon Ball is there. The mushrooms do nothing as far as help them grow. They get no fireball. They get stupid powers with machinery, which again I don't understand the whole Blade Runner meets Mario world at all. So it doesn't even fit the what it's supposed to do in the first place.
All right, and time on that 4 minutes.
Sorry.
Let's go to Tato for your final 60 seconds first, whenever you're ready.
Once again, the worst fantasy film of all time is Dragon Ball Evolution. It's not a fantasy film, it's a fucking nightmare film. It is an absolute disgrace to Dragon Ball filmmaking and humanity in general. With Mario, you can at least throw it on 90s. It's visually fun to look at, like I already said. I have to invent a new word. a word like murder fuck to describe my hatred for Dragon Ball Evolution. I'm done talking about it. Time.
Fair enough.
Well, Tato's gonna murder fuck the timer and make me try to skip ahead. All right. Let's wind down the last couple of seconds, and we'll go back to Mr. Tucker for your final 60 seconds whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I also don't have much to say about my movie other than the fact that, like I said, it just does. It's not even a Super Mario movie. It doesn't touch anything in that lore or anything. And when you want to do a fantasy movie, you at least have to touch the lore of the fantasy that you're trying to tell. Where Dragon Ball at least does that. It's a bad attempt at it, but it does at least touch that. Where Mario is just a bad 90s cliche movie that they tried to do with a Mario skin on it, and it just did not fit. So yeah, I'll yield my time.
All right, sounds good. Well, that is going to do it then for this one. Just a public service announcement. Don't murder fuck any of your friends, your significant others, nothing like that. That would be bad. But we will certainly credit 2023 new words, Jake Tato, murder fuck. All right, we'll certainly credit you with that one for you, Tato. But let me back these guys out, and we'll move over to our esteemed judges here. So let's bring in this time it'll be Alan, Chris, and then Brian. Yeah, certainly an interesting one there. Two bad movies for sure. But let's see who made the argument for which one is worse in your guys' eyes. And I think you guys are all ready to go. So Alan, we'll go to you first. Who do you think won this one and why?
Well, I applaud Tato's wordplay always. It's very brilliant, and I do appreciate his passion for it. But honestly, I think Don hit it on the head with the only thing Mario about that damn movie was Mario and Luigi, and we just didn't hear enough of the slamming of Dragon Ball and how it wasn't Dragon Ball-esque. So I went with Don.
Okay, Don gets the first point there. Chris, who got it for you on this one?
Well, I appreciate Tato taking the dead parts to the terribleness of that movie. I shall not never name ever again. Either one of these pieces of primary garbage. Don was on it in the end for me. He went after everything, and the point he brought up about that the movie didn't even follow the fantasy lore Mario scene. I think that won the point for me in the end. God, I don't ever want to talk about the movie ever again.
I don't think anybody does, but that'll be it for now because that's 2 points. Brian, we'll see you in a minute. But Don is gonna pick up the point for that one. So let me back you guys out. And Don, good job hanging in on that one and grabbing the point. So we're gonna go to so no knockouts here tonight, but we will go on to the fourth question here this evening, and we'll see what we got on tap. We're going to talk about a director that got briefly mentioned, actually, because of Tato's answer of Real Steel, and actually the director of that movie, Sean Levy. So kind of coincidentally, these guys got asked a question about director Sean Levy, and this is a viewer-submitted question, and it's submitted by our very own member, Zachary Shelton, who you'll see on here a lot, both fighting and judging, and he wanted to ask the question of what is the most underrated Sean Levy movie. So I would think that Real Steel is probably out of the running because it had already been used tonight. But we will see what else these guys can pull out of Mr. Levy's IMDb here and what they had to say. But because it is now round 4, Don Tucker, you will be up first, sir, for this one to give us your answer. So give me 1 second while I reset this clock here, as I have done just there, and I will start that clock, sir, for your first 60 seconds whenever you're ready.
So yeah, I went with the movie that I just actually right before we were asked these questions, watched the movie recently. I haven't seen it in a while, and I remember loving it. And it holds up. It does. So I picked it. It was pretty easy for me. It's Pink Panther with Steve Martin, and I love the originals, but I really love this take on it with Steve Martin. I think he plays Clouseau very well. And the way they're able to have fun with it. Some of the funniest scenes in this movie with him driving a smart car around, and the Dan Burger scene, him trying to learn how to speak with an American accent. And there's just so much in this movie that I think holds up and really plays well. So I went with the Pink Panther.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, sounds good. Mr. Tucker will go with Steve Martin in the Pink Panther, and we will go over to Mr. Tato and find out what he chose for his Sean Levy movie. Whenever you're ready, Tato.
The most underrated Sean Levy flick is Cheaper by the Dozen. I'll admit that I went half-heartedly into this one just for the purpose of this debate, but I actually got a few good chuckles, and there was a ton of heart to this movie. Steve Martin and Bonnie Hunt are solid, but Tom Welling and Piper Perabo are actually great. Allison Stoner is really good as the little shit stirrer. She's great at that role. And the Ashton Kutcher bit where he just looks at the camera and says, "This is the moneymaker. I'm not that good of an actor. This is how I get my jobs. I know that. I'm man enough to admit it." That is the funniest scene from either of these movies, hands down. It is worth the price of admission and worth more than the poor reviews that this movie got. Spoiler alert, it actually really got me when the kid's frog died and he ran away, and then they find him, and Hilary Duff, of all people, gets to deliver this perfect line. There are times when I want to kill Sarah, but I'd kill for her all the time.
All right. So we got Pink Panther versus Cheaper by the Dozen. Don, we'll go back over to you for your expansion time whenever you're ready.
So I went with Pink Panther for a lot of reasons, but it's a classic Pink Panther story, and I think it's told really well, and I think the way they bring it in to the modern time with Beyonce as the girlfriend of the soccer coach in this case, and losing the Pink Panther diamond right in front of everybody on the field, and the chief or whatever wanting to bring in a really bad detective to so he can get his promotion and figure it out without them getting in the way, and him just throughout this whole movie, all the antics that Steve Martin can obviously do. I mean, he can obviously play this type of character so well, and I really again like the way they bring this into the modern age. The Dan Burger scene with him trying to speak American and going through "I want the damn burger" and just trying to get this down is one of the funniest things. Seeing him try to drive this little tiny car that he can't park in a spot that's 15 miles apart. I mean, it's all Steve Martin at its best, having fun and just being able to let loose in this role. Cheaper by the Dozen, yeah, it's a fun family movie, but there's really nothing. There's no risk taking in it. It's just a straightforward family classic. It's grown-ups. I wouldn't even say it's even on grown-ups level. I mean, it's very PG-13 type humor. Straightforward. Just kind of run-of-the-mill comedy where, and yeah, it just doesn't hold up. I mean, I think there's definitely a lot better movies in that same genre that tell that story a lot better without the just sort of rehashing it the way this movie does. So,
all right,
I'll end there.
That'll be your 2 minutes. Tato, going back over to you. We can still see you. I don't know if you're having issues on
okay, yeah, sorry. I was just sure. I'm sorry if you heard me there. I thought you cut out, and then it seemed like I cut out. So if we're all good, Ski, we can carry on.
We're still good on our end. So your 2 minutes whenever you're ready, sir.
Alrighty, I'll just tack on to the end of that scene. It's really, really sweet when Steve Martin gives up the dream job at the end, and they all show up at the football field with the "We Love Coach" signs. It's really, I'm a weepy bastard. It got me. It's getting me now. I'm actually going to check out the sequel to this movie, though. So I think we can both agree that since we both have mid-2000s Steve Martin remakes that are pretty much equally rated on Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, everywhere, that this debate in this circumstance comes down to what is the better movie ultimately. And I think that is clearly Cheaper by the Dozen. As I mentioned, there's real heart in Cheaper by the Dozen, and it's the more funny movie. It definitely has the funnier meat-based dog attack scene. The kid soaking Ashton Kutcher's underwear in meat is way more clever than Steve Martin trying to smuggle hamburgers through the airport. The childish antics work a lot better in Cheaper by the Dozen because they're being perpetrated by children, so it makes sense. Pink Panther is definitely the movie that's more offensive to its predecessor. Steve Martin's accent is a poor imitation of the OG Peter Sellers Inspector Clouseau. Steve Martin's performance is also way better in Cheaper by the Dozen. He actually gets to act and show heart while displaying the classic Steve Martin antics, and he's just doofy and flat the whole time in Pink Panther. I'm going to be saying flat a lot here because that's just how I felt about Pink Panther. I got nothing out of it. There were times where it got close to making me laugh, but again, fell flat. I was even more high for this one than I was for Cheaper by the Dozen, by the way, so that shouldn't be the case. I watched them back to back today. Austin Powers, A Master of Disguise, do the bumbling agent parody better. Speaking of which, Beyonce was better in Goldmember than she was in this. And even Kevin Kline, who I love to death, just really falls flat in this movie. Yeah.
All right. Sounds like he's going to yield those last couple seconds. All right. Sounds good. We will move on to our 4-minute open discussion, and I'll begin that 4 minutes when the first person starts speaking.
So I think it's really like the opposite of that. I mean, Cheaper by the Dozen, underrated. It's his most underrated movie. I mean, it's what does he really do in that movie that you think is so underrated or so groundbreaking? I mean, it's not like he really does anything where Martin at least brings a new, like you said, he brings heart to that to any character, and he brings a lot of that to Clouseau with just the way he's very playful. I mean, the scene with the secretary when he's first going to meet Kevin Kline, his character, the chief, is a really, really funny scene with her up on him. And
I'll be honest. I was pretty high while watching it, and it didn't make me laugh. Like, I did not laugh once through the movie, genuinely, and like not even in an I'm trying not to for the debate way. It just genuinely did not connect with me.
No, I mean, and again, I'm not, I don't know if I would say that Pink Panther's groundbreaking in that way either, but Cheaper by the Dozen is very, very, very like run-of-the-mill, very family-friendly jokes. I mean, there's really not much where they go, like you said, other than the one Ashton Kutcher thing. That's really the only big joke in the whole movie. Everything else is very run-of-the-mill, very mild, very, like we want everybody to be able to watch this movie, where Pink Panther really takes some risks on some fun. And yeah, his accent is not great in that movie. Of course, it's not supposed to be. It's not about. It's more of just him being able to have fun in this role, and you can definitely tell he's having a lot of fun playing this role and being able to be in the Pink Panther universe.
I see a lot more heart in the story. Like, I actually got misty over over Pink Panther. There's no redeeming heart moment in Pink Panther at all. Cheaper by the Dozen, like I said, it's just that, like I said, the Ashton Kutcher bit is the funniest bit in any of these two movies, period. It's the only genuine, laugh I got out of both of these movies. But I actually, like I said, I got a few chuckles in at the childish antics in Cheaper by the Dozen because they are perpetrated by children. Whereas like I said, Austin Powers and there are just other better bumbling spy movies. Or Inspector, whatever, just movies that are in that oeuvre. I think that it's a poor imitation of Austin Powers, and it's a poor imitation of the original Pink Panther. And the physical gags, they do jokes that don't work, and they repeat those jokes that don't work to the point where I just did not laugh at all. I was turned off by the movie. The hour and 38 minutes or whatever it was felt like 2:15, 2:30. It was rough.
I think it's a nice, quick story. I mean, it gets out. It's a heist movie, and he figures it out pretty quick, and he's bumbling the whole way through it. Which that's obviously the way it's supposed to play out. But yeah, the sneaking the hamburgers back through the customs scene. I know you said it's not funny. It's pretty funny that he doesn't know that. I mean, there's a lot of little things in this that because of who he is as a character, and he's from this little town in France, that it plays well. It does play well. And again, Martin being able to bring that lighthearted, very kind soul type bumbling idiot feel to the character really works for the character overall, because that's what the character is. So yeah, I think it really does do what it's supposed to do as far as bringing this story into the modern world.
All right, and time. And Don Tucker, you'll be up first for the final 60 seconds of round number 4, and what could be the final round, we shall see. It depends on how this goes. But Don, your final 6 seconds whenever you're ready.
So again, I really think when we're talking about the most underrated film that he did, Pink Panther does fit that more than Cheaper by the Dozen. Cheaper by the Dozen is a very safe film, and it's it's funny in very small parts, but it's just a very safe film. Not a lot of thought or anything put into it. Where Pink Panther sort of brings an old story that we already know, yes, into a modern world, and Steve Martin playing the lead character and the lead part of in this role, I really feel is like what made this movie, really worth doing, because he just brings so much to the role, and that's why I went with Pink Panther overall. So I'll yield.
Okay. I'll let those last couple of seconds wind down here. And Tato, we will go to you for your final 60 seconds in this round.
Alrighty. So like I had said, both these movies across the board, they're both the Steve Martin 2000 remakes of older films, so they're just a ton of similarities here. So it ultimately comes down to just what is the better movie, since they're equally rated. The more underrated one is going to be the one that's better rated for those poor ratings, and I do think that is Cheaper by the Dozen. Like I mentioned, you get the laughs, you get the bigger laughs in Cheaper by the Dozen, you get the better Steve Martin performance. He shows heart. He's not just a bumbling doof all the time. He's very one note in Pink Panther, and it's a poor one note imitation of the OG Peter Sellers, like I mentioned. But no, and he gets to show heart. He has to give that up for his family. It's a really, really touching story. I really liked all the characters, and genuinely, I am going to check out Cheaper by the Dozen 2. I will never watch Pink Panther 2.
All right, and that's going to do it for this, what could be final round. We don't know. This is a very close game. Let's see what happens here. Two movies you could argue are maybe underrated, maybe they're not. I don't know. We'll see which guy made the better argument here for the judges. So I'm going to push you guys to the back for just a second, bring back our judges here for round number 4, and this time it is going to be Chris, Brian, and then Alan. Another tough one. These guys have put a hell of a debate so far. Does it end here? Does it keep going? We will find out for this one. So, Brian, or excuse me, Chris. Chris first. Who got this one for you and why?
That's a very interesting debate. These are interesting choices. Tato say that if I don't watch Cheaper by the Dozen 2, the only one James funny thing that movie. I would Tato in the end. I just think he just pulled what he said with the heartwarming Steve Martin performance, but made it underrated, the family aspect, the extra kids joke. And he took down a lot with the Pink Panther talk about how offensive it is, how it's just nothing funny. I kind of agree with him a little bit. The only one funny thing for me with that, but yeah, Tato.
Okay. Taylor gets the point for Chris Diaz. Brian, who got the point for you on this
I
one?
also wrote Taylor 2 belts on this one. What sold me on the argument was he said there's better bubbling in his movie than Pink Panther. He talked about the heart, talked about the comedy, talked about the performance. So Taylor gets my point.
Okay, well, I'm going to bump you guys to the back just for a second, because your winner with a score of 3-1 this evening, moving to 4 wins and 4 defeats with 2 knockouts, Mr. Jake Tato. Jake, you pulled it out there right at the end, although it looked like Don was close to making a comeback there. It looked like you might have had him, at least in the first half, on the ropes for a potential knockout, but he was able to fight his way back with that Dragon Ball, a Super Mario Brothers question. As passionate as you were, he was able to calm down and get it done. But how are you feeling about your win? You still get the win today, so you moved to a 4-win streak. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. Like I said, that was my goal at the beginning of the season. I hit it. I'll set my next goal, which hopefully is the tournament. We'll see how it shakes out ultimately. Even if not the tournament, though, I'm excited to get a couple more wins, hopefully, under the belt. But yeah, I feel I've definitely showcased more of the player I actually am.
Yeah, well, you've definitely done everything that you can up until this point to truly make yourself, look good going into a potential tournament slot. I don't know if it's guaranteed 100%, but certainly you having a 4-win streak doesn't hurt your chances at all. I'll say that only helps your chances if there's a potential, sort of deciding factor or, a vote
Right.
or something like that. It certainly helps your stats that you have made quite the comeback with 4 wins in a row and 2 knockouts on the way as well. So, but yeah, should you be able to get, slide in there on kind of a wild card slot, do you hope you keep that momentum obviously going and maybe surprise some people in the tournament?
I'll be playing against some top tier competition privately, not so privately. I'm really hoping it shakes out so that I face Joe Fairley in that first round. I think that's quite within the mathematical possibility. And that's the only, I got the Alec win back. I got the Papa win back. I've gotten, and the other guys out of the league. So I've gotten every win back I could, other than Joe Fairley. So that would be really cool.
It's certainly in the possibility. And like I said, I mentioned that Joe Fairley match, one of your earliest ones where you were very nervous, but I think if you faced him now, it would certainly be a different match. Would you get the win? I don't know, but I certainly think you have a much better chance now than you did back then, for sure. You've played impressively. I could definitely see your improvement as far as your notes and your preparation and your arguments. So you've really got the momentum right now, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, man. Well, I'm going to talk to your competitor for just a second. But Jake Tato, picking up that win tonight and adding to a nice little win streak here. I'll bring in his opponent for this evening, Don Tucker. Unfortunately, you're going to move to 1-3. It didn't go exactly your way in those early rounds. You did fight back there near the end. I thought you definitely had a chance on that final question to take it to that blind round. But how you feeling about your performance overall, though, man? How you feel about this one?
No, I think I think it was another match where I think I at least showed that I can hang in this league. Obviously, I still need to tweak some things as far as how I get my arguments out, and definitely just gotta go back and watch and keep tweaking, and eventually I'll get there. So I mean, these guys have been doing it for a lot more matches than me, so you learn things every match. So.
Oh no, you're still getting your feet wet here in this league. I know how that goes.
Too. He really came in with some really strong arguments. So,
well, I think you could definitely take.
To him.
I think you definitely take inspiration from Tato, given the fact that he was in kind of a similar situation to you early on in his career, and he's, as you've seen, he's battled back, and he's 4-4 now. He's built up his record again. He's gotten really, really good. Sometimes, it just takes time to kind of hone your style and hone your craft. You know what I mean? But I think you've definitely got potential here, Don. You're working way up there, man.
Thank you. Yeah. No, I'm definitely excited to hopefully get an invitation to come back next season and see what I can do then. So.
Yeah, you may still have a chance to actually just play another sort of standard match before the end of the year is up. It might not. Obviously, it's probably not going to be a tournament match, but you may have a chance to play one of the other competitors that doesn't make the tournament. To see if you can at least improve your record a little bit before the end of the year, and then like you said, start fresh next season. So we'll see what happens. Keep your chin up, man. You've got a lot of potential in this league, so keep it up, man. All right. Well, I will bump you out. Good job to both these competitors tonight. It was a really fun contest, some really good questions, and some really interesting arguments. Two guys who are really fighting. Like I said, a spot in that sort of end of the year tournament, trying to get that sort of outside wild card slot. Mr. Tato certainly has a chance to do that here now, improving to 4-4 and having a 4 win streak, which certainly helps his chances. If there's some sort of ballot to get in there, he certainly got his chances to do that. So we do have some upcoming matches I want to tell you about real quick here on TMG Entertainment. You'll be able to see a brand new title match here very, very shortly with Amaru Moses taking on the aforementioned Joe Farrelly. So if Joe Farrelly is able to win the title from Amaru, I don't think Tato will be able to face him immediately as he'd like to. But if he doesn't do that and enters the tournament, that could definitely still happen. We've got some guys like Jeremy Potters and Joseph Burrows, 2 rookies that are doing quite well coming up here. We've got some nice exhibitions up on the channel. So make sure you go check out TMG Entertainment, everything we got going on there with the Battleground. But thank you guys so much for joining us here this evening for another great episode of the movie Battleground. I am your guest host for this evening, Austin Pez Howell, and we will see you next time in the Battleground.